Greta and Gaby, welcome home. Okay, so here is the finished product. Well, there's a few more things I need to do, but this is the general scope of how it's going to look. So let me give you a tour. Let me unlock it so we can get inside. That scared me. There's a little bit of a wall right there, and that terrified me. I thought the glass was going to break. Alright, well, anyway, let's have a look at what I've done in the interim of things. So right here, it's kind of hidden. I've got ventilation, and then I have the same on this side. They both open and close, so we'll leave them open for now. I've installed this, which is going to be the nighttime heat supply, because one of the lights is off, so let me turn it on. There we go, that's better. So, this is going to be the nighttime heat supply. It's just a radiant heat bulb, just going to keep the top of the enclosure at like 80. Still give them a little bit of a heat source if they want it. In terms of keeping the humidity up in enclosures like this, that's not something particularly easy in a glass enclosure, which is what they're in currently. But an enclosure like this, keeping the humidity up is extremely easy to do. Just a spray would probably be enough for this enclosure. But what I like to do is provide them with a misting system of some kind. I don't use the reptile ones because they all break. So what I use is I use these things. There's no particular reason why I prefer this brand. It's just cheap, easy to get. It's just an Amazon Prime thing. And I mean, like, this thing cost me maybe $30. It will last a year, and then I'll just buy another one because it will break. They all break. They're not going to knock it over. It just sits in the corner, and it does the exact same thing as the reptile ones. I'm going to crap on them anymore. They just don't seem to last as long in my experience. So let's put the bedding in and get this set up and then introduce the girls. It's all set up. It's in its location. There's the mister working its magic. It's kind of hard to see on the camera, but it's already beginning to fog up, and it's only been on for about 30 seconds. Everything is on, the lights are on, it's had enough time to settle in terms of temperature, so I know where it sits. It's dark outside now, so I've got a lot of light in here. I've had this sitting for a while to make sure the temperatures are correct. I'm probably going to have to do some adjustments, maybe even reduce the wattages of the bulb, but at the moment they had the height to avoid if they need to. So if I see that they're never basking in these spots, is that one sits at about 100. So if I see they never use those spots because Gizmo doesn't really use his hotspot that much, then I'll just lower the wattage of the bulb so that they can use a bit more of the verticality of this enclosure. It would be kind of pointless for me having this and them just sitting in the bottom 2 foot of it. I'm just going to turn the mister off. So I'm going to go get the girls and we'll introduce them one at a time and see what they think. So here's Greta. She's the big girl of the two. It's kind of disappointing because she's actually going through shed at the moment. So she's going to make a mess of this lovely new enclosure. This is awesome. Look at that. I mean, I'm zoomed in pretty much there. Now let's see when we zoom out just how she disappears. All right, let's get Gaby. And now we have Gaby, the skinny one of the two, but she is the oldest. So let's put you in. Go on there. So here is Greta, seemingly loving the enclosure. And then here is Gaby. So I'm very happy with this result. Frilled lizards tend to be a bit of a high-strung species, so the chances are they're not going to be happy for a little while. And they may not eat for a little while. That's fine. I'm expecting that to be the case. But let me give you a tour of their new crib. There's their nice big water bowl. There's their food bowl. They generally take food from tongs, but if I'm in a rush or if they're not in the mood, then there's that. There's their mister. They've got all of their branches, their heat emitter for the night, their daylight, their mercury vapor bulbs, their cross ventilation, beautiful background. So I think it's only fair if we leave them be now. And what I'll do is I won't offer them food today because they won't take it. They probably won't take it tomorrow either. And over the next few days, I'll just make sure that all the heating and the humidity and everything's on point. I'll feed them, and then that will be where we'll finish the video. So we're going to quickly just make a fast forward. Okay then, guys, let's have another checkup on the girls here. Ugh. So there we have it. It is finished, the girls are in, I've done all the final checkups. So I've had to do a few things since the last section of this video. To me it's been days, but you guys are seeing this within seconds of each other. So I've had to lower the wattages of the bulb. I've gone from the 125s to the 80 watt. They weren't going up above 2 feet of the cage, so it was too hot. Even though when you do research on these guys, it generally says keep it to 100 or 110. They just don't go near it. So I've changed the 2 bulbs. These 2 provide the heat, the light, the UVA, UVB, all of it. At night time, those 3 lights go off. This one will turn on, and it will keep the top of the enclosure at about 80, and then the bottom of the enclosure will sit at about 75-ish. And then the mister. So it comes on every 30 minutes for 10 minutes, and that seems to run perfectly, keeping the humidity in this setup exactly where it needs to be, which is on average 70 to 80%. So as I said, frilled lizards can be quite, what's a good word to describe them without making me sound like I'm trying to put them in a negative light? Finicky. We'll go with finicky. They're a little finicky, and they tend to be quite picky, and they don't like change. They're not like snakes. Lizards seem to be a different caliber of snakes in terms of their intelligence level. Like, snakes seem to be kind of simple-minded. Water, hide, most of them are pretty simple like that. Lizards seem to have a lot more on their plate. They have a lot more stresses, or they're just more aware of the stresses. As you can see right now, this is basically how you always find them. Sitting perched at the same heat spot. Even though they have two, they always share the same one. Now, what I've been told is that the dominant one will always sit on the less dominant one. But these two rotate their positions. They're not always in this configuration. Sometimes Greta will be at the top and Gaby will be below, and then other times it's in this configuration. So they get on perfectly fine. If they don't get on perfectly fine, then I will just simply take one of them out and they will go in that enclosure over there. Temporarily, that one's half the size of this, exactly half the size of this. So whichever one I took out and put in there wouldn't be in there for very long before I'd have to build another one of these. They've been getting on for about 6 months now, so I don't see why they would have any problem coming up. But you never know. It's always good to plan for the worst. But if I can, and if at all possible I can keep the two together, then I'm going to do that. Now, I'm kind of disappointed because I went through all the trouble of driving all the way to a pet expo. Well, it wasn't even a pet expo, it was a pet show. I had no real reason to go there and watch a bunch of dogs that look the exact same parade around and get ribbons. Got no idea why one got the ribbon about the others. They all look the same. Whatever, maybe I can enter these girls into a frilled lizard show. Go out of my way to get these ropes, and so far, apart from me putting them on them, they're not even interested. So maybe in the future we'll do a care guide on the frilled lizards. I don't really see this channel really diving into a lot of that, because there's a lot of people out there that do care guides, and I don't know if there's a requirement for another person to really be doing that. So the room that we're in right now used to house all of the reptiles. Currently they're not all housed in here because the collection has been outgrowing this room. We're going to fix that by building another room. We're going to be taking this enclosure building to a whole new scale, because this is big and this is elaborate, and so is Gizmo. That is nothing compared to what's coming up. So the last step for us to conclude this video and conclude this build is the name tags. Greta and Gaby, welcome home. And here are the beautiful girls eating together after a bloody 5-day hunger strike. That's the finicky aspect I was mentioning. They just require a little more patience